There are some unwritten rules, lines you don't cross in the cutthroat game called politics. One of them is you don't exploit our veterans, soldiers who paid the ultimate sacrifice, preserving our values. But east of Toronto, in Durham, Ontario, a Liberal candidate, Grant Humes, played the dirty political card, putting a website, Durham for Vets, on his campaign signs in a bid to win the by-election battle that's being waged. Now, it's bad enough that he politicized the silhouette of a World War I soldier by combining Liberal and support our vets. But what's even worse is that the campaign website Humes is pitching, Durham for Vets, provides an opportunity to donate, not to the local Legion Hall. It links directly to the election campaign website for none other than Grant Humes, the politician. Not to mention he's making this veteran connection while also having links to articles that trash both the NDP and the Conservatives. It's political and it's obscene, especially when you consider the abysmal Liberal track record on support for the military. Remember this attack ad?
Stephen Harper actually announced he wants to increase military presence in our cities, Canadian cities. Soldiers with guns in our cities, in Canada. We did not make this up. Choose your Canada.
Everything about supposed Liberal support for the military is made up. Soldiers in our streets, attack ads, 15 years of budget cuts from the Liberals, 15 years of neglect, sending our troops into a shooting war in Afghanistan and in forest camo. Yeah, forest camo driving jeeps. That is the Liberal legacy of support for our troops. Quite frankly, it's disgusting to exploit our vets as political fodder. So for more, we turn to Toronto Sun comment editor Adrian Batra. Adrian, let's start out with those jeeps. Why does it make no sense to have forest camo jeeps in the desert?
Well, because the whole point of those Iltis jeeps, Charles, is to be used in terrain that's forest, not for the desert. And you often see the images of American soldiers, or British soldiers, of course, who have the sand-colored boots and the uniforms. Our soldiers were sent with the forestry colors, and not a lot of trees in in Afghanistan these days, as far as I can tell. So there's a perfect example of a decision that was made, probably made by some bureaucrat, not understanding what our troops are getting, what the harm our troops are getting into, and simply saying, well, hey, we have to save money. Let's just send them with the gear that they have. Now, it's not only was that irresponsible, it was an international embarrassment, frankly, because when you are a military soldier and you're going to serve your country to help protect so many of the freedoms that we enjoy right now, Charles, the very least your country can do for you is provide you with the gear and the proper attire in order to do your job. And they did not do that. The Liberals did not do that.
Right. And let's just be clear. They were made into sitting ducks by having that color of vehicle, not to mention the fact that the vehicles were in poor repair, not to mention the fact that it was a shooting war they were being sent into in Afghanistan. This wasn't the kind of social work that Liberals love to do with the military, you know, snow clearing and floods. Yeah, this was a shooting war. This is a shooting war, and this was and it was very bloody for our country, not like others in the past, to be sure. But it's a different type of war that's being waged. I mean, it's a war on terrorism. It's a war on freedom. It's a war on thought. It's a war on individualism. And here we have our men and women who put themselves into harm's way, and a government that makes a decision to put them there. And I agree with that decision for our country to serve and to help fight that war on terrorism. But again, you're sending your people without the right tools and without the right weaponry. I mean, you don't. How it's the saying, you don't go to a gunfight with a knife. I mean, it was so stupid and irresponsible. And I suspect that a lot of the soldiers from other countries, the NATO troops, probably took some pity upon our guys and gals and wanted to, you know, share their supplies with them that was more proper for the terrain. So again, you're already in a very tumultuous situation. You already have a lot of stress and pressure. The last thing you need to worry about are if your boots match the ground. All right, Adrian, let's take it right to real time. And Durham, you've got a vet who's representing the Conservatives, and you've got a sleazeball, nicest thing I can call him, representing the Liberals here.
Yeah, well, this is a story that's actually gaining quite a lot of traction in Toronto and the GTA. So the Liberal that has put this campaign forward to support our vets, he of course does so at such a questionable time, right around Remembrance Day, and hovering around the time of when the actual vote is to be taken place. Now, Hume is actually, Charles, interestingly enough, he's getting a lot of criticism, not just, of course, from media talk show hosts and pundits like you and me, but also just from the people in the Durham region. They find it offensive because many people in that part of the GTA, they served, or they knew someone who did serve in World War I or World War II, and that many of our current Canadian soldiers come from that area. So they find it very offensive. It wasn't so much the putting out a campaign. It was more so along the lines of the donation buttons that you can spend your money in order to help this Liberal candidate, and the exploitation, all of that stuff. That's where they were very, very upset about this.
Yeah, the email I was getting yesterday from the Durham region, that is clearly what they were upset about. The idea of supporting the vets, okay, they support the vets, okay, so there's a website you can go to support the vets. There's a donation button, and lo and behold, wait a minute, I'm not donating to vets here, I'm donating to an amateur politician.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote about this in my column in the Toronto Sun on Sunday, that there's this sort of slow erosion of the respect and the remembrance that we provide for our soldiers and those that made the ultimate sacrifice for us. I think this is a component of that. The exploitation and using such a charged political race. Because look, this race is important. I mean, it helps a Conservative government get a stronger majority. It also could give the Liberals one more seat in the House. So there's a lot of rancor going back and forth. And to put our vets and our soldiers in the middle of it is really, no matter for the most pacifist of anybody, this is just not acceptable, and it's just wholly disrespectful. And again, it's like the soldiers with guns in our streets ad. You give your head a shake. I mean, honestly.
Which fertile Liberal mind did this come from? Was this Justin's brainstorm?
Well, it may be. I mean, he's just on in the national campaign to run for leader. I mean, look, there's all sorts of Liberal leadership races going on right now. They're all dipping from the same gene pool in terms of their brain trust and who gives them advice. So I couldn't honestly pinpoint exactly who was in charge. But you know what? It doesn't matter, Charles. At the end of the day, it's the candidate's responsibility, and it's his name on the ballot.
Adrian Bacher, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Adrian visits us on Tuesday. She's the comment editor of the Toronto Sun.